The importance of being earnest. Oscar Wilde was an Irish poet who was a spokesperson for the aesthetic movement in England. The aesthetic movement advocated art for art's sake, whose message rejected the notion of artistic creation for moral or social purpose. During this time, it was common for literature to portray some moral message so that people could learn from the mistakes of fictional characters and conduct themselves better. In his play, The Importance of Being Earnest, Wilde uses the various characters to portray how hypocritical Victorian ideals were. He illuminates Victorians' strong Christian beliefs as well as their desire for political and societal power. Through satire, Wilde criticizes Victorians' morality in regard to their views on marriage and social status. The importance of being earnest begins with Jack talking with Algernon about proposing to Algernon's cousin Gwendolen. Algernon remarks that Jack cannot propose to Gwendolen because he has another woman that he is in love with. This causes Jack to confess that he has been lying about his identity. After this confession, Algernon commends Jack for his successful Bumbarian. Bumbarian can be defined as avoiding one's duties and responsibilities by claiming to have appointments to see a fictitious person. Jack lies to his ward Cicely about his brother being very sick, which requires him to leave for town over weekends. After Jack defends himself on his Bumbarian, Algernon says a man who marries without knowing Bunbury has a tedious time of it. Readers can see the evident contrast between Algernon and Jack's stances on marriage. After Algernon comments that marriage proposals are merely business, Jack is appalled. Wilde's character creation between Algernon and Jack is remarkable. Victorians valued marriage as long as it advanced them in some way. Jack seems to be genuinely in love or in lust with Gwendolen. He does not mention her social status nor her parentage. He only comments on her beauty and her mind. In contrast, Algernon understands the true nature of marriage by claiming that divorces are made in heaven. Through Algernon, the reader can see Wilde's view on what marriage is in this time period. Although Algernon comes across as cynical, he clearly displays the coldness of what a holy matrimony is viewed as. Moreover, Act 1 highlights two important Victorian ideals, marriage and morals. It is evident that the women in the play do not care for love and marriage, but class and what is believed to be good morals. As Jack proposes to Gwendolen, she remarks, "The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Ernest, I knew I was destined to love you." She does not care about Jack's character, only that his name reflects the character one should have. Gwendolen's mother, Lady Bracknell, interrogates Jack and considers him to be a good candidate to marry her daughter, except for the fact that his origin is a train station. Here, there is a strange contrast between Lady Bracknell and Gwendolen. Along with not caring about Jack's character, Gwendolen does not care that Jack has no upper class family ties. To her, his family is enough. His name is enough. In difference, Lady Bracknell only cares of Jack's family history and not of his apparent moral character. Wilde utilizes this act to exploit Victorians' desire for high social status and aestheticism. Further, another interesting element in the importance of being earnest is gender roles. Today, in Christian Western culture, it is custom for the man to ask the woman's father for her hand in marriage. Now, the woman has much more control over who she marries in some cultures, but the father, the head of the household, is still the overseeing figure. The only figure in the play who has control over a young woman's life is Jack. Even though Jack proposes to Gwendolen without permission from either of her parents, it is Lady Bracknell who interviews Jack to determine if he is a good candidate. Lady Bracknell remarks that her husband, Lord Bracknell, would never let their daughter marry Jack, but she implies that she makes the final decision. In addition, generally, readers see the men taking charge of their romantic lives and declaring whom they will marry, but both Algernon and Jack stand idly by as decisions are made for them. For example, when Lady Bracknell returns to the room to see Jack on his knees proposing to Gwendolen, it is Gwendolen that takes a stance against her mother, while Jack watches silently. Another example is when Cicely confesses to Algernon that they have been engaged for months, although she has never met Ernest. This ties back to the love of a name and not the person, but also that Cicely has no regard for how she ought to behave. The women in the play are an inversion of what accepted Victorian gender roles are. Although it can be viewed through a feminist lens, Wilde uses this motif to illuminate the absurdity of Gwendolen and Cicely falling in love with the name Ernest. Despite the fact that he chastised art that was created for a moral purpose, it is exactly what Wilde did in the importance of being earnest. Wilde strategically asserts that Victorian ideals are hypocritical as well as non Christian in spite of their strong Christian beliefs. In the end of the play, Jack discovers that he was being truthful all along and that his true name is Ernest. He remarks, "It is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth." This does not only suggest that Wilde has discovered through life that he has been right about what love and marriage actually are, but that Algernon's comments earlier in the play were truly accurate.